Hi there, it's Donna from Taffy Crafting. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. You may have landed on this channel from the Stamp Around UK YouTube video hop, or you just may be one of my regular viewers. But this video today is part of the Stamp Around UK video hop. And the theme for today, we always do this on the very first day of each month. The theme for today is 3 projects, one for the beginner, one for the casual crafter and one for the avid crafter. I'm going to be using hand-penned petals today, which is a really lovely, sweet, floral stamp, and I'm going to show you 3 different ways in which you can use it. So I'll start off with the beginner project, and this is just basic stamping, nothing else. I've got a card base. This measures 8 1/4 by 5 3/4, and I've scored down the long side at 4 1/8. Now I just need to, no, I'm not going to burnish that yet, am I? Yes, I am. Sorry, trying to think, what am I doing? So I'm just going to burnish that, and I'll be stamping there on the front. So I'm just going to open it out so that I can stamp on there. And I've got, because this is a hard surface underneath with no, there's no sponginess about it, I'm just going to slip that mat underneath it. It's just got a little sponge mat. I don't even know where it came from. I think it came from my Stamparatus actually. So I've put that there so when I stamp on it, then there's a little bit of give and it's going to give me a better image. So let me just get my stamp ready. So I'm using this stamp. So I've got that loaded up onto my block and I'm going to stamp that. I was going to stamp it with smoky slate. I'm still going to stamp it with smoky slate. It's entirely up to you. It will depend what colours you already have. So when we're stamping, if you're a beginner paper crafter, you never stamped before, you're just going to take the stamp to the pad and just gently tap it to get an even distribution of ink. Those of you who are avid crafters will already know that, but this is for the beginner. And then decide where you want your flower. You might want it right in the middle, you might want it to the side. I'm going to go right slap bang in the middle. So there's no layering with this, just stamp straight onto the card. I would say as a beginner crafter, if you are a beginner, buy some really cheap card and just have a really good practice. So we've got this main flower in the middle. So there's the stamp for that. So that's this one. And the colour that I'm going to be using, I've just realised I've left my ink open. I'm going to close that quickly. The main colour that I'm going to use for the flower will be Polished Pink, one of our new in colours for 2021-23. Our in colours stay in for 2 years. So I've got that on my block. Take my Polished Pink ink. And the reason I'm using Polished Pink is for a later project in this video, I'm going to be using some ribbon. And I haven't got a vast collection of ribbon, but I do have Polished Pink and I wanted something really bright as well. Now, if I stamp that straight onto the card, it's just too juicy. It's too pink. Let me show you. I've already been having a little bit of a stamp on this. If I do that, that's just too much. So I'm going to stamp, this is what I call by stamping off. Don't load up the ink again. And then put it over your image. Now it's really difficult because I would get my head over this and make sure it's level, but I can't. Now for this particular stamp, nice firm stamp down. It's meant to look, it's not meant to colour in all of the edges. It's meant to look like that. So there's my flower. And then I've got another flower here. So that's this one. Oh, it might be that one actually. No, it's this one. Actually, it's that one. And again, I'm going to load up the ink onto the stamp, but I'm going to stamp off because it's too much. Well, in my opinion, it is. You might not think it is. And then again, I need to just get this in the right way. I'm just going to go there, like that. You might sometimes hear that referred to as second generation stamping. And then I've got a leaf. This is the bigger leaf, and I'm going to stamp my leaves in garden green. I did have old olive out. I must have changed my mind. Yep, I must have changed my mind. So garden green. Oh, my leaf's fallen off and it's fallen onto the floor. So this is where I pause the video and go and find it. Right, back again. Thank goodness for the pause button. No, I'm not using garden green. I've just remembered. I'm going to be using pear pizzazz. It was a nicer colour. I think I did try this out earlier. And pear pizzazz was a much, much nicer colour. Garden green's quite dark. So again, stamping on and stamping off. So load up your ink. Stamp off. And then getting this the right way round. Stamp there. That could be a little bit straighter, but it purely is because I can't see right over it. I think I need to go this way. That's better. So a stamp there, and again, it's not meant to look super neat. It's meant to look like you've watercoloured it. We'll put another one there. And then I'm just going to get the small leaf stamp out for that one. That other one was a little bit too big for that when I was trying this out earlier. So again, load up the stamp, stamp off on a scrap piece of paper or card, and I'm going to put that there. I'm going to do that one last time. And even though that's not a leaf shape, I'm just going to use the leaf just to fill it with a little bit of colour. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, and you'll see in a minute how lovely this is, the thanks sentiment here. It's really, really nice. It's got a really crisp font to it. Let me show you. I had a bit of an accident with this thanks stamp, and I got it stamped in embossing powder, and it's never been the same, the poor thing. I've got Evening Evergreen for this, a really nice alternative to black. Just like Night of Navy, that's a nice alternative to black. Basic Grey is a nice alternative to black. So load that up on there, and then just line it up. The great thing about photopolymer stamps, I think photopolymer stamps are perfect for beginners because you can see straight through the block and you can see where it's going, and you're unlikely to be crooked. So that's our first card. Perfect for the beginner. Limited amount of supplies that you need to buy. Couple of colours of ink. You might not necessarily have used that. You might have had some black ink about, it's entirely up to you. And there we go. A nice card to say thanks. Could have said happy birthday, get well soon, anything. So what I'll do now is fold that over and give that another burnish. And there's our first card, which we've done in under 10 minutes. And that's a perfect project for if you wanted to get a series of cards done. If you thought, well, I want to make a load of thank you cards, you could make a whole load of those, spend an afternoon and get a production line going. Right, let's put that to one side. And I've got another piece of card. Just need to check the measurements of this. One of my cards was, the measurement wasn't quite right. No, this one is fine. So 5 3/4 by 8 1/4 and score at 4 1/8. That's UK A4. Yours might be a bit different, but it doesn't matter. I've just cut a piece of A4 cardstock in half. Now we're going to do something a little bit different with this, and we're going to be doing some layering. So this is for the casual crafter, somebody who crafts, perhaps wants to do just a little bit more than stamping. And then what we come into is some layering. And I've got some, the 6x6 DSP in the 20, 21, 23 in colours. So these are 6x6. These are the 4 designs. And for these in colours, this comes in polished pink, evening evergreen, soft succulent, fresh freesia, and I've probably forgotten another one, and this polished pink. I can't remember what I've said now. So these are really good for background layers. All you need to do is just choose which one you want, and I think I'm going to go for this kind of cross-hatch design. So when you're layering, so this card measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/4. So to layer it, you're going to reduce the size of your layer by either 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. It's entirely up to you. And I watch lots of different crafters online, and people either do it 1/8 of an inch or 1/4. So that means this piece of DSP needs to be, I'm going to reduce it by 1/4. So that was 4 1/8, so this needs to be 3 7/8. It's like a maths lesson. And then turn it round. So this was 5 3/4 the card, so we'll drop it down 1/4 of an inch, and that makes it 5 1/2. That can make layering tricky if you're having to work out a particular measurement and then take 1/4 of an inch away from it. I don't take that for granted. That is not easy for everybody. Might want to do it on a calculator. I've done that before. So that's what you get if you reduce the size of it by 1/4 of an inch. You get 1/8 of an inch all the way around, and it gives you a really nice border. So I'm just going to get some liquid glue and just stick that on. Liquid glue is perfect for ensuring that things are stuck down centrally. Crafters that just get the stamp and seal, or the, I can't remember what it's called. It's what I call a dispenser glue. That's not what it is at all. And they just put that on there, and I just admire them for that, because I can't seem to get anything on straight first time. I need a little bit of room to maneuver, and the wet glue allows you to do that. But what you must do is just disperse that glue underneath. Be careful if you're using foil. If you stick foil down onto a card and you're going to be seeing most of that foil, you will see the glue underneath. I've tried to do that before, and I couldn't believe how much of this glue you could see. So if you're using foil, you might prefer to use tear and tape or the dispenser glues. So there's a layer. Now, what I'm going to do with this is stamp my flower again onto a piece of white card, and then stick that white card onto my card. So let's get a piece of, I did have a piece of white card handy, and then I stamped all over it. Now at this point you need to decide what size do you want your image in the middle. You might want quite a big gap so that you can see this layer. But that is going to be governed by how big your stamp is. So I'm just getting my stamp up here. So this would fit quite nicely in there. And then I'm going to show you how we can put a sentiment on a different piece of card. So what I want is to have perhaps this image up here, and then I'll put a little sentiment down there. So what I'm going to do is just cut this. So if this was 1/4 of an inch, I think what I'm going to do is bring it in by 1/2 an inch. Now it starts to get a bit more interesting. 3 7/8, which is what this is, less 1/2 an inch is 3 3/8. And at the moment what I'm doing in my head is just checking that 7 take away 4 is 3. So there's 3 3/8. But I'm not going to trim this here, because I want this to sit at the top there. So it's all about thinking about what your layers are going to look like. So I'm just going to keep that there for now, and I'm going to stamp towards the top here. And then what I'm going to do is I'll trim it, and then I'll use what's left to put a sentiment at the bottom. So what I'm going to do, because you've already watched me stamp this, I'm just going to very quickly off camera stamp this again, and I'll come back. So there's my stamped flower. So if I get my card back, we'll put that at the top there, and then what I'm going to do is just slice this off here, just so that we've got an equal distance between the top of our flower and the bottom of it as well. So let's get the trimmer out. I think that will be okay. Make sure it's straight. So that will go on there like that. And then what I'm going to do, the same width, is have another piece of white card here. But first what I'm going to do is stamp on it so I can get the correct width. Now I'm going to choose a different sentiment just because I've got more width here to play with. So we have a nice congratulations sentiment there, so we'll use that. So I'm just using one stamp set for these 3 cards. And again, I'm going to be using the Evening Evergreen just because it's nice and dark and we can see it. So let's stamp that there. I'm trying not to get my head in shot. That's terrible. I'm going to turn it round. That's awful. And I think I'm going to use a different stamp. I don't like that at all. I'm going to go back to my thanks stamp. Just because I know this one will work. Oh, goodness me. I just went and blobbed a bit of ink on there. That's it. That will do. And then I thought that wasn't going to be wide enough for that, but actually it's not bad at all. And I'm not going to change the width of that. All I'm going to do is just put that into my trimmer. Get that into place where I want to trim it. And I've got that nice and even. And that will go on there like that. So we'll just quickly stick those down, and then we'll have our second card, and we'll be ready for the last one. I think as well, however we decorate our cards also depends on the recipient. Some people don't want fancy cards. They might just like something that's much more simple. While I'm putting this down, I'm making sure that the gap on the sides and the top is as equal as possible. I've just eyeballed that. I haven't measured it. If you prefer to measure it, absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm just dispersing that glue just so it's not visible. And then we'll just put some glue on this, and then that will be our card finished. I'm still sticking with the polished pink theme. And the other thing that I'm trying to do is have an equal distance between here and here. And there is our second card. So a little bit more layering. The other thing you can do as well, if you want to, you can also layer these layers. It's just, you can have as many layers on there as you think the card will take. So that's, you know, something else that you can do as well. So we could have had a different you could have had a different colour behind that if you wanted to. So for the avid crafters, this is when we start to throw a couple more techniques at this. I'm just going to check the measurement of my card. Yes, this is the one that's too big. So 5 3/4. Just need to trim a little bit off of that. That is because the length of A4 is just slightly more than 11.5. So at 4 1/8 we will score that, or you'll just score it halfway. Now what I want to do with this is add layers, ribbon, rhinestones. We'll chuck everything at it. So let's again have a layer of this polished pink DSP. So we'll put that on there. I'll just quickly trim that down. So 3 7/8, taking off 1/4 inch either side. 3 7/8 for the width and 5.5 for the height of the card. Like that. Now, one thing that I really like with pink is black. And I'm going to be a little bit brave and I'm going to put some black with this. Now maybe I should have had a black layer behind this, but I'm not going to do that now. It's too late. I always think of these ideas as I'm just sticking a bit of glue on a bit of paper. So there's our pink layer. Like that. So what I'm going to do is actually stamp onto a piece of white card, but I'm going to make the card slightly smaller. I'm going to start with the black card that is going to be the same size as this actually. I'm just not going to make life difficult for myself. So that measures in inches. Most people seem to work in inches. I'm going to go 3.5, I can't remember what that was, by 3 3/8. So I'll quickly go and get some black card and trim it to that width. In fact, what I've done is I've made life easier for myself, although I've just gone and trimmed that. Why is that different to that? I've trimmed this to 3 3/8, but not that one. 3 3/8 square. I tried to do that off camera and I've mucked it up. Let's try again. So 3 3/8, that's right, by 3 3/8, that is right. It's this one that's wrong. 3 3/8, that one is right. Oh no, it needs to be it needs to be 1/8 of an inch less. Oh sorry, 3 1/4. Sorry, I was just having a little bit of a dull moment there. Brain stopped working for a second. So let me just clarify that. That black card is 3 3/8 square. This is 3 1/4 square. So what we get is just a nice layer or a nice border around the white, and we're going to stamp on that white, and that's going to sit in there like that, and it just gives a little bit more of a just more of a pop of colour. So we'll stamp on that, and I'm going to see what room that I've got, what room I'll have left for my ribbon and everything else that I'm going to chuck at this. So we'll stamp again. Stamp again in smoky slate. Again, you don't necessarily need to stamp in smoky slate. You could stamp in black or maybe Sahara sand. It's entirely up to you, or a green. And then we'll just get these stamped. Now, while I'm doing this, let me tell you about a few things. I do have a Facebook page called Taffy Crafting, and when I can, because I do have quite a demanding full-time job, but when I can, I do Facebook Lives. They become very international. Got people from all over the world that tune into those. So come and find my Facebook group if you like, my Facebook page. And I will let you know when I have some Facebook Lives coming up. I want to try and do them weekly, but it's been really difficult to do that. There is a link to my blog in the description bar below, so you could head over to my blog and you'll find all of the details of the products that I'm using in this project. Find all of the details on my blog, so you can come and subscribe to that, and I can send you a newsletter every couple of weeks. They come out. I was trying to do it every week, it was too much, so every couple of weeks I have a newsletter coming out to tell you about all the different things that we've got going on. I've lost my Pear Pizzazz ink, there it is. And of course, here's my YouTube channel, of which you are already here. So if you like what you see, come and give me a subscribe. I don't do anything too complicated. I always do things that anybody could join in on. And then once a month, I do this Stamp Around UK, so their theme governs what I make and makes me step out of my comfort zone once a month. So that's the last of our stamping for our plant there. And I'm just going to put that on there like that. So let's just load that up with glue. To put that on there. I just love how that black makes the pink really pop. Just the difference between these two. So the avid crafter would have no problem at all in working out measurements. They'd probably know them in their head. It's like a darts player knows how to count backwards when they're playing darts. The experienced paper crafter just knows what 1 7/8 less half an inch is without even thinking about it. It takes practice. The great thing about using a DSP that has lines on it, it makes it a lot easier to line up. I can assure you though, when somebody receives their card, they don't then sit there measuring it to see if it all lines up and it's all even. So we've got that. So I'm just trying to move on nice and quickly now. What I'm going to do is get another piece of this black card, which will be 3 3/8 width. So 3 3/8 in width. And I'm going to trim this down to 1 inch and we'll see what that looks like. If I could actually pick it up. That's going to sit in there, that's perfect. And then our white card will be 7/8 of an inch in width. I might be out of shot there. 7/8 of an inch, so I've just dropped it down by 1/8 of an inch. I don't want the black to be that black border to be too big because it overpowers it, I think. 3 3/8, so 3 1/4. Now I'm going to do something with this. Kind of aware that time is tramping on, but I want to put some pink ribbon around that and put a sentiment over the top. So I'm going to see if this works. So just take a length of ribbon. It's probably a bit too long, but and I need some tear and tape. And I'm going to run some tear and tape just along the front of that, and I'm just coming up to 30 minutes for this video. I try to keep them under 20 if I absolutely can. I actually try to keep them under 15, but I can't always do that because the people who watch me always say, don't rush it, we like it that it's nice and slow. And that's how I keep it. If that's what people want, then that's what I will do. But once it starts going over 30, busy people don't have time to watch. Right, so there's our tear and tape in there. I've got a piece of polished pink ribbon, and I'm just going to run that along there. Completely invisible. Glue would not be able to do that at all. And then we just need this to fold over like that, so I'll just trim those off. And I'll be honest with you, I just stick those down with sellotape because it's easier, much easier than mucking about with glue. I'll just stick that down there like that. The other one that has stuck to my hand. Like that. And I'm going to stick that on there. I am going to put a sentiment on this, but what I'm going to do is, no, I will put that on with glue. I was going to put it on with dimensionals. I am going to do that actually because I don't think the glue will stick to the ribbon and the sellotape. Where are my dimensionals? I put them away. So I'm just going to run these along here, and I'm going to stick that onto, just gives our card a bit of height. This video is going to be longer anyway. Got 3 cards. Plus also I want you to see them being made. Now this is tricky to put on here when I can't lean right over and make sure that it's on there central. I think I've not made a bad job of that actually. And we're going to stick that on there. There's something else I'm going to do with this in a moment as well. I'll show you. For the Avid crafter, they chuck everything but the kitchen sink at their crafts. It just gives their cards so much to look at. So that's that on there. Now, while that is drying, there is something that I want to put on this card, and I've got some rhinestones, and I've got some champagne rhinestones. These are much prettier because we're using pink. Oh, that's just pinged. There it is. Because we're using pink, these champagne ones are quite nice. And I'm just going to dot them without them looking obvious. There we are. 3, that's enough. So we've got that. So we've got some more embellishment on there. And now I'm just going to put something in the middle here. And I'm going to use a punch because we haven't used a punch yet. So there's my block. And I'm just trying to think what I'm going, it might have to be that thanks sentiment again. We're going to use the oval punch. Let's get, I've got a bit of scrap card there. So here's the oval punch. And I've got some cards. It's a bit grubby, that will do. Got that side, that'll be fine. And back to my evening evergreen. We are almost done. We are almost done. If you've stuck with me through this whole 30 odd minutes, thank you. I need to think I'm going to punch it here because of the way that the punch is put together. So there's our sentiment. And then because of the nature of this punch, because we've got the bigger punch here, I only need this small one. And I'm just going to feed that in there like that. It just fits. And I like it when punches and sentiments just fit. So we've got that. And I just want to put that on there like that. Let's see if I got some black card and the bigger punch behind it. This is me now just thinking of... So I've punched the bigger oval. That will sit over there and that will go on there like that. Perfect. So let's mount this up on here. They're not very even. Put that on there. So the techniques that we've used here is layering, embellishments with rhinestones. We've got some ribbon going on here. We've got some punching, more layering, and just finally, let's put this oval onto our card. Whoops. And we are done. Now, what I'm not going to do on camera, otherwise this video is just going to take up your entire day. You've got room inside for a sentiment, you know, whatever it is that you want to put on there, or you just might want it blank. Often thank you cards tend to be blank. Got that, and it just needs one more or two more things. Just a rhinestone here on either side. If I can pick it up. So I'd have one there. And we'll have one there. So, oh, the junk that's around me there now. So for the beginner crafter, we just stamped and we filled those in. If you didn't have lots of colour inks, you could use maybe watercolour pencils, blends, markers, you know, anything that you like. So very, very simple for the beginner crafter. Then we took it up a notch and we did some layering. So we had a piece of DSP in the background and then just two separate pieces of card with a sentiment and an image on it. And then we took it up a level and more layering, but an extra piece of layering. We've got some embellishments on there and we've just upped our sentiment a little bit by getting some ribbon and some punches. So I hope you like those. I hope that inspires you to give it a go and to maybe even start doing things out of your comfort zone. I know this type of thing does for me. And I hope to see you again really soon, and I'll have another project for you. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye.